In these videos, it may be a little darker than usual, but that's alright. Because in these videos, I'll be reading one chapter of the Harry Potter series per video. They'll be roughly around 10 minutes long, and I really hope you enjoy. Now, to start the first chapter, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, because this is in America. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Private Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a film called Gruggins, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large mustache. Miss Dursley was thin and blonde, and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful, as she spent so much of her time craning over a garden fence and spying on the neighbors. The Dursleys had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion there was no finer boy anywhere. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. Passed in broad daylight, the people down the street pointed and gazed upon mouse as owl after owl sped overhead of them. Most of them had never seen an owl even at nighttime. Mr. Dursley, however, had a perfectly normal owl-free morning. He yelled at 5 different people, he made several important telephone calls, and shouted a bit more. He was in a very good mood until lunchtime, when he thought he'd stretch his legs and walked across the road to buy himself a bun from the bakery. He'd forgotten all about the people in cloaks until he passed a group of them next to the baker's. He eyed them angrily as he passed. He didn't know why, but they made him uneasy. This bunch was whispering excitedly too, and he couldn't see a single collecting tin. It was on his way back past them, clutching a large nut in a bag, that he thought a few words of what they were saying. The Potters, that's right, that's what I heard. Yes, their son, Harry. Mr. Dursley stopped dead. Fear flooded him. He looked back at the whisperers as if he wanted to say something to them, but saw better of it. He dashed back across the road, hurried up to his office, snapped at his secretary not to disturb him, seized his telephone, and had almost finished dialing his home number when he changed his mind. He put the receiver back down and stroked his mustache, thinking, no, he was being stupid. Potter wasn't such an unusual name. He was sure there were lots of people called Potter who had a son called Harry. Come to think of it, he wasn't even sure his nephew was called Harry. He'd never seen a boy. It might have been Harvey or Harold. There was no point in worrying. Miss Dursley, she always got so upset at any mention of her sister. He didn't blame her, if he had a sister like that, but all the same, those people in cloaks. He found it a lot harder to concentrate on drills that afternoon, and when he left the building at 5 o'clock, he was still so worried that he walked straight into someone just outside the door. Sorry, he grunted, as the tiny old man stumbled and almost fell. It was a few seconds before Mr. Dursley realized that the man was wearing a violet cloak. He didn't seem at all upset at being almost knocked to the ground. On the contrary, his face spread into a wide smile, and he said in a squeaky voice that made passersby stare, "Don't be sorry, my dear sir, for nothing could upset me today. Rejoice, for you know who is gone at last. Even muggles like yourself should be celebrating this happy, happy day." And the old man hugged Mr. Dursley around the middle and walked off. Mr. Dursley stood rooted to the spot. He had been hugged by a complete stranger. He also thought he had been called a muggle. Whatever that was, he was rattled. He hurried to his car and set off for home, hoping he was imagining things, which he had never hoped before, because he didn't approve of imagination. As he pulled into the driveway of number 4 Ford, the first thing he saw, and didn't approve his move, was the tabby cat he'd spotted that morning. It was now sitting on his garden wall. He was sure it was the same one. It had the same markings around its eyes. "Shoo!" said Mr. Dursley loudly. That cat didn't move. It just gave him a stern look. Was this not nor macaw cat behavior? Mr. Dursley wondered, trying to pull himself together. He let himself into the house. He was still determined not to mention anything to his wife. Miss Dursley had noticed a nice normal day. She told him over dinner all about Miss next door, problems with her daughter, and how Dudley had learned a new word. won't. Mr. Dursley tried to act normally when Dudley had been put to bed. He went to the living room in time to catch the last report on the evening news, and finally bird watchers everywhere had reported that the nation's owls had been behaving very unusually today. Although owls normally hunt at night and are hardly ever seen in daylight, there have been hundreds of sightings of these birds flying in every direction since sunrise. Experts are unable to explain why the owls have suddenly changed their sleeping pattern. The newscaster MacGuffin with the weather going to be any more showers of owls tonight, Jim? Well, Ted, said the weatherman, I don't know about that, but it's not only the owls that have been acting oddly today. Viewers as far as Kent, Yorkshire, and Dudley have been floating a downpour of shooting stars. Perhaps people have been celebrating bonfire night early. It's not until the next week, folks, but I can promise a wet night tonight. Mr. Dursley sat in his armchair, shooting stars all over Britain, owls flying by daylight, mysterious people on close all over the place, and a whisper about the Potters. Miss Dursley came into the living room carrying 2 cups of tea. It was no good. He had to say something to her. You're so very nursery. Petunia, dear, you haven't heard from your sister lately, have you? As he had expected, Miss Dursley looked shocked and angry. After all, they had normally pretended she didn't have a sister. No, she said sharply. Why? Funny stuff on the news, Mr. Dursley mumbled. Owls shooting stars, and there was a lot of funny-looking people in town today. So, stepped Miss Dursley. Well, I just thought maybe, because something to do with, her crowd. Miss Dursley sipped her tea through pursed lips. Mr. Dursley wondered whether he dared tell her he'd heard the name Potter. He decided he didn't dare. Instead, he said to ask how she could. Their son. He'd be about Dudley's age now, wouldn't he? I suppose so, said Miss Dursley stiffly. What's his name again? Howard, isn't it? Harry. Nastily common name, if you ask me. Oh, yes, said Mr. Dursley, his heart sinking horribly. Yes, I quite agree. He didn't say another word on the subject as they went upstairs to bed. While Mrs. Dursley was in the bathroom, Mr. Dursley crept to the bedroom window and peered down into the front garden. The cat was still there. It was staring down Private Drive, and though it was waiting for something. Was he imagining things? Could all of this be have anything to do with the Potters? If it did, it got out their way, they were related to a part of it. Well, he didn't think he could bear it. The Dursleys got into bed, and Miss Dursley fell asleep quickly, but Mr. Dursley lay awake, turning it all over in his mind. His last comforting thought before he fell asleep was that even if the Potters were involved, there was no reason for them to come near him and Miss Dursley. The Potters knew very well what he and Petunia thought about them and their kind. He couldn't see how he and Petunia could get mixed up in anything that might be going on. He yawned and turned over. It couldn't affect them. How very wrong he was. Mr. Dursley might have been drifting into any uneasy sleep, but the cat on the wall outside was showing no sign of sleepiness. It was sitting as still as a statue, its eyes fixed unblinkingly, on the far corner of Private Drive. It didn't so much as quiver when a car door slammed on the next street, nor when 2 owls swooped overhead. In fact, it was nearly midnight before the cat moved at all. A man appeared on the corner the cat had been watching, appeared so sudden and sunny you thought he just popped out of the ground. The cat's tail twitched and its eyes narrowed. Nothing like this man had ever been seen on Private Drive. He was tall, thin, and very old, judging by the silver of his hair and beard, which was both long enough to tuck into his belt. He was wearing long robes, a purple cloak that swept the ground, and high-heeled buckled boots. His blue eyes were light, bright, and sparkling behind half-moon spectacles, and his nose was very long and crooked, as though it had been broken at least twice. This man's name was Albus Dumbledore. That was this chapter for today. Tomorrow I will continue the chapter. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Thank you.